Greetings and hello to another amazing Brizy tutorial. It's 2020 now and lots of things have changed. So I thought it might be interesting to show how you create a completely website from the scratch using Brizy. And we dig a little bit into blogging. So I'm going to show you how you can create themes, templates, stuff like that. And we will do everything completely in Brizy. So no matter what theme you use, you can do it exactly as I do it today. I resetted here my test page. Currently I'm running Bloxy as a theme, but like I said, we want to do everything in Brizy, so that doesn't really matter. So let's check what plugins we are going to use today. I currently have 13 installed, and we start with Brizy and Brizy Pro, obviously, because this is a Brizy tutorial. I have Happy Files Pro. Happy Files is a very neat thing to organize your media library. Instant Images, I'm going to use this to get my images for the website. With Instant Images, you can download images from Unsplash directly into your media library. Then we have Login Press 3 times for example, if we have a membership base or something like that, that the login page looks nice and interesting too. Then we have pods. I'm going to use that, for example, to create a custom post type like a gallery or something like that. Sassy Social Share, a very nice plugin to offer your readers the possibility to share your articles. It's very important. SEO Press, of course, to make the SEO stuff. Simple custom CSS and JavaScript to create some nice effects on our website. Table of Content Plus is also a nice thing to improve the readability of your articles, and gives you also a tiny little edge in SEO. And VP Reset, well, the plugin I use to reset my test bench here all the time. So first things first, let's go into the settings and permalinks and change this thing here to post name. Second thing, I'm jumping into the Brizy settings and I'm allowing SVG uploads. Okay, so currently right now we just run Bloxy. You can see I have a ton of themes here right now. I'm using them constantly to test in Brizy. Yeah, so let's start with the first page, and that's usually always the home page. So let's call this one, just home. And I'm going to publish this one. And then let's edit with Brizy. So, okay, here we see already our sharing plugins from Sassy Social Share. I don't want to have them currently there. They are just distracting while we work on our pages. So let's configure Sassy Social Share. First of all, what you want to do, you go into floating images, and here we turn this one off. That was the sidebar you just saw here on the left page. Save changes. And then we go into the standard interface and we keep this on, but you scroll down and here in position with respect, blah, 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 turn off top of the content, because we are going to set our sharing buttons only by shortcode. So back into pages, edit with Brizy, and you see both are gone. That's what we want. So we start with a header, and it's important if you want to use Brizy to build everything from your theme that you use a header for the header section. Because this header block is not a normal header block, you see here you have the option to set them sticky, fixed, or static. And that's an option you usually don't have with a normal block. So if you add a blank block and want to use this one as a header, you see we have a problem there. So this is our header. I leave it empty like that currently. This one here becomes our hero section. So that's where I want to welcome the visitors on the website. And here already we run into the first issue because currently we have no images. Okay, so back to WordPress, and here in instant images, the first thing I do, I configure the size settings, and this time I go to 1280 to 1280. Because mainly I want to work with overlays, so I don't care if my 1280 pictures get stretched out to 1920. If you mainly work with images without blur or without overlays, and you need your images to be as crisp as possible, you should put that one to 1920. Okay, so let's look for something nice for photography. There we go. So let's pick some nice images we can use later. Yeah, well, I think that should be enough for the beginning. So let's jump into the library. And the thing you see here on the left side, that is happy files. So what we now can do, we can create categories. For example, I call this one now home. And now let's look for the image. This one, for example. This looks nice, so I'm going to drag this into home. And since I'm already here in the media library, I can start to edit my meta files for this image. As you can see, the name is not very good for SEO. That's happening not by Brizy, but by the plugin we use to download the image directly into the media library. You have no option to rename these images. That's a little bit annoying. Usually if I'm working for a client, for example, I wouldn't download them directly into my media library, especially not important images. I would usually rework and redefine them in Photoshop, and there they get their individual name, especially a name that makes sense. So if we use this as the hero image for our website, it would make sense to change the title to my name, and also the alternative text. It would be here my name, caption and description. You can ignore. That's fine like that. Remember to click somewhere when you change things here and not directly on that X, because otherwise WordPress won't save your changes. so let's have a look. Let's take this one too. So we now have 2 images for our home section, and well, let's take this one there. Why not this? Okay, so now we have 4 images for our home section, and as I said, don't forget to put them, especially in the home section, that you always set them on your name. This is the thing you want to rank on your homepage, so it makes sense to have the name set there. Okay, now that we have our first images, let's jump back to pages. Edit with Brizy. So let's pick a nice background image, and I wanted to start with that one. Then we add a row and some text. So on this one, I want to draw attention from the visitors, so I call them out with don't move. I have you in my crosshairs. Okay, so let's make this one a heading 1, but only for the optics. We don't change the HTML tag, because don't move is not what I want to rank on this website. But I want this text to be white, and then let's increase it. Good. And the lower one I'm setting to heading 3. Again, this is just in the typography, so I only change the looks of the text and not its meaning. Meaning by I'm not changing the HTML tag. Yeah, well, that was smart. Now I want everything in white. Okay, so this one I want a little bit like that. And so that we can read everything a little bit better, I'm going to drag down the overlay a little bit. So now we can read this pretty nice. Since I want this one to pop into my visitor's face, I'm going to use an entrance animation. So I'm going here on settings, then more settings, and here I'm going to advanced. No, styling advanced, where is it? Ah, here, entrance animation. Yeah, so let's jump down to, for example, bounce in. And now it really pops into my face. Okay, so I'm happy now with the hero section of my website. Yeah, the next thing would be to introduce myself. So we are a photographer here. So let's talk a little bit about ourselves. I'm going to use image here. And that would be this one. And here we start with hello, I am my name. So obviously you don't say hello, I am my name, but here you would add whatever your name is. So this time we set this to heading 1, but also the HTML tag to h1, because my name is the thing I want to rank on. So let's center this one. Okay, and below this I add my text where I'm going to introduce myself. So let's use blind text for that. One thing I get asked often is, how do you use the text element correctly? Well, personally, what I used to do is I'm using a single paragraph element for one text block. So that way I noticed I have nearly no problems doing anything. So I'm copying this thing 2 times. And now I'm going to delete here the upper part, the lower parts, pardon. Here I'm deleting the upper and the lower part, and in the lower section, oops, I'm going to delete the upper parts. So this is nice, our text of our introduction. Now let's drag this image a little bit larger. So yeah, that looks good. And now you see our image here is a little bit larger than our text. So what I like to do in this situation, I'm jumping here and go to the settings tab, and there I can say center my content. So this looks more symmetrical in the eye. For this thing here, I would like to use a little special feature, and I used that in a tutorial recently. It's called Ken Burns animation. So let's prepare here everything that we can use this Ken Burns thing. So we need to do some things to do that. First of all, let's jump into our custom CSS section, and there we are setting up a new CSS code. And I'm going to copy the code right now from my other tutorial, and we call this one Ken Burns. So now I need to copy the CSS classes. This one is Ken Row, and that goes here into the blue arrow, and then I go to settings, more settings, and here you see the CSS class, and that's where I'm copying in Ken Row. Another thing I want to do, I want to change the padding and the margin always down to 0, so that works correctly here. Next thing, we have to copy this CSS class, and same thing with the image element. I'm going to settings, more settings, and in the advanced section, I'm copying in this into the CSS class. So in the styling, I also put the padding to 0. Why does it not log? Okay. And the margin to 0 too. So now my image is exactly the same size as the row. So let's check it out. And here we have to publish our Ken Burns CSS code. And let's have a look. Let's refresh this one. Yeah, this is our intro animation. And now you see, if I'm going with my mouse on my image, you have this little Ken Burns animation. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. Next thing would be, for example, my blog section. So to separate it from the ones I have created so far, I'm going to use a dark background for this one. And this here I'm going to set to white. So this one I'm going to call, for example, my name's latest articles. And it's important again here to use your name. So in my demo here, it's my name, because we are going to set this one to heading 2 and also the HTML tag to heading 2 and center this one. Okay, but I want to have this one in white. Okay, now here my post will be shown. So I'm using the posts element. I'm just dragging and dropping it in. So there we go. My latest articles. Next thing, what we want to do, we want to show our portfolio or what we can do. So let's put this one there and say my name's expertise. Make this one again heading 2 and here heading 2. And here we are going to put a gallery element. And what's important for the gallery element to work, we're going to click the gray arrow here and enable tags. It's usually activated by default. Just make sure if you want to have something like a portfolio here that you activate tags. Okay, this looks good so far. Last thing we want on our home page to enable our visitors to call us or to get in touch with us. So let's go and add a text. And well, we can say this just contact. Turn this to white. Custom heading 2 and custom heading 2. Center, and here I'm going to use a row again because I want to use a form on the right side, and on the left side I want to use map. Having a map on your home page is important for local SEO. Because if you can deal with your customers everywhere, it's not important. But for example, a photographer or a beauty place and stuff like that, you want people to be able to find you that live near you. For example, I'm located in Berlin. It wouldn't make no sense for me to get a customer from New York or Vancouver or stuff like that. So I usually try to add a map on the homepage already, because that supports our settings we do later in our SEO tool. And last but not least, we are going to choose one of the footers here, and I picked this one. Okay, there we go. This shall be our home page. And as you can see, currently it looks very, very horrible. So it's time now that we have created our first idea of how this page shall look that we start to create our style set. And that's the next thing what we want to do. So first of all, I'm jumping here into my color section and change the colors, because personally I like my colors more to pop than the basic settings we have here. And that one also goes up there. And this one I want also to be a substrate of that. And then let's go, I think somewhere here. Okay. Then this thing I'm going to set to 23, 23, 23. So that gets a little bit lighter. This one here, I'm going to set to, okay, need to add the other ones too. I nearly want to go dark, but not exactly dark, not exactly black. Okay, this looks nice so far for my color setting. And now I want to make my header as dark as possible and my footer as dark as possible. So they are a little bit more in contrast to my other blocks. Okay, next thing I want to do, I want to set my footer to, my header to global. And same thing goes with the footer. I'm going to set this one to global because these are the elements I'm going to use on every page, and I want them on every page to be the same. Okay, let's start here with our hero section. Right now, if I'm scrolling, the back image is scrolling with me. I think that looks a little bit boring. So I'm picking fixed here. I like this one a little bit more. And the next thing, we put her more in the place so that she shows off a little bit more. Okay, here we had as an entrance animation bounce in. Let's see if there are some other things that look nice. Okay, this flip, light speed. Okay, rotate, zoom in. Oh yeah, Jack in the Box. I like Jack in the Box. Okay, so let's keep this one to Jack in the Box. Okay, so this is our hero section. There we want to go to this introduction section. So let's change this thing here, and in the styling tab, let's add a lower divider. And here I want to use these arrows, so it points already down. And let's close this gap. Okay, now this looks much better. Okay, there we have now here our introduction. And then we have our postings. So I would like to go here again with the divider, but more like this. So let's set this one to that color. Yeah, that looks better. So let's stick with this divider. So I'm going to use it here too. There we go. But this time I need to pick white. Okay, and back here we want to change this one again into this dark gray. Then we have our content. Okay, so this looks much better already. Next thing we want to do, we start to design our elements. And to do that, I'm going to introduce a new block. For example, we now have here our post section. So I'm going to create a new post section up here. And this is the post section I'm going to design right now. So first of all, let's start with the button. I want to be in a gradient, 180 degrees. And I want it to work from purple down to teal. I want my border to be teal and the shadow to be purple. And in the hover section, I'm going also again here with a gradient, but from teal to purple. The border I want to have in purple and the shadow I want to have in teal. And then let's make everything round. Okay, there's still a little bug, so to say. In the hover section, I also changed this one to 180 degrees. And now we're ready to go. This is a really cool looking button, I think. Okay, so next thing, the boxes. Let's go here into the color settings, and as an overlay I want my dark purple, but I'm going to put it down to 10%. And in the overlay section I'm going to put this one in teal. So back to the normal section, the border I want in teal and the shadow I want in purple. And in the hover section I now want my border in purple and my shadow in teal. So that looks good. Next thing, we are jumping into the settings section, and here I'm setting the margin to 5. So we have this little gap between our divs, and it gives more the look of a card. And because I'm a fan of round corners, let's go, let's go unique this time. And let's say we make this one here 50. And this one here 50. Not 52, 50. Yeah. Okay, that looks already pretty amazing. But what we want to do up here, let's take for the upper one 10. So our image doesn't poke the border. Okay, so this now is our post section. So this obviously looks better than this, so we kill the older one. I'm going to duplicate the new one and drag it there where I want to have this one here. Last thing I need to change, because this one right now is on the dark background, we need to change the colors of the text to white so people can read everything. And I want to make sure that the links are working, so I'm going to set them again by hand, because now you see here the dotted lines. Same goes with this one. I want to have my accepts there. Okay, but I want a little bit more, because I want to show people when my article was written. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this one, and I call this one now post date. Right now we have my name's latest article, and this one is a heading 2, so I'm going to use for the post title here a heading 3. It's currently designed as heading 4, so no, that looks nice. This one here, I want to stay normal as possible. So I'm going to paragraph. And next thing, what I want to do, make sure that the gap is set to 0, move to more settings, and the upper margin I'm putting to 0. So this hops a little bit up. And in the post title, I'm also making sure that here everything's set to 0, and here I'm changing the lower margin also to 0. So they are much closer together right now, but not far enough for my taste. So I'm going here a little bit into the negative. So for example, let's take minus 5. Where? Minus 15 is a little bit too much. So minus 5, I think. Yeah, maybe minus 10. Yeah. Okay, now we have our post title and the date glued together. And then there comes our preview text and the button to read more. Let's make sure that the button to read more, yeah, it's set to post URL. Okay, everything fine so far. Good. Let's have a look at this one here. I would like to have here a little bit more too. So let's use our color settings here to change a little bit the overlay. And I'm thinking about to make this really fancy from the looks. So I'm thinking about to go from here purple to teal, but to make everything more readable, let's go to 10% and also 10%. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, well, it gives a hint of a color change. So it's very discreet. I like that. So let's go on with the borders. I want here teal, and the shadow should be purple. And in the mouse over, I want the border to be purple and the shadow to be teal. Also, the overlay. I want my overlay to change a little bit. And so let's switch the colors. Okay, so this looks pretty nice. And since this will be now my style for boxes and stuff like that, I'm going to create a new row and put this one into our style block. And there I'm going to say copy. And here I'm going to paste style. So this is the next style thing we have. Okay, so I'm happy with this block so far. So let's save this one. And after we saved it, we can now let's make a look just to be sure that it's here and it's saved. There it is. Okay, so we can delete this one here. Okay, so now we have a new animation there. We have our divider set. We have a little bit color in these things. Let's close the gaps here. yeah, there, for example, would be a nice place to call in our new created design blog. And there I'm going to copy the style. No, not paste. I want to paste the style. Okay, looks much more interesting. What I noticed here, for example, what I need is a little divider in the margin. So I'm changing my left margin to 5. And here I'm going to change the right margin also to 5. So now we have our boxes separated a little bit more and still keep the style. Okay, then we have here our form, and that actually right now looks pretty horrible. So let's change the background and the style a little bit. So background in purple. And let's make the background so a little bit better to read. The text a little bit darker, that looks great. The border, let's make purple, teal. And the shadows I want in purple. So if we are hovering over it, I want the text to change. Border becomes purple. Shadow becomes teal. And here we now have a little problem because I can copy this button, but I can't paste the style because this button is integrated into the form, and so it has its own class, and so we need to design the button by hand right now. So let's do this. We started with purple to teal. Set 180 degrees. Text white, border is teal, and the shadow will be purple. And when we hover over it, I want my gradient back, but this time from teal to purple and 180 degrees. Text stays white, but the border changes from teal to purple and the shadow becomes teal. And I want to have a round button. Okay, so this looks nice. And what we can do, we can copy this one, duplicate, and put it in here, because now we have our preset for our forms. So I'm going to save my style block and delete the old one. Okay, so now we can delete this one here too. Update. And let's have a look. Here we still have our table of contents, so we need to turn that one off. So let's jump into the table of contents page and remove this page here. And in the advanced sections, I don't want to have the heading 1 integrated. And that's all for now. So back to all pages and view again the home. Yeah, here we have the Ken Burns, the over, the mouse over changes a little bit the colors. Looks nice. We have the don't move popping in. We have our latest block styles, a little bit with our own design. The expertise images, we have to work on that for now, and we have our content section. Okay. Yeah, and we have the footer and the header we haven't designed so far. I'm aware of that. But I'm going to start working on the menus and stuff like that only when I really have a little bit, a little content to put into the menus. So for right now, I'm fine with how it looks. Well, what we already know, we have to throw this one out later anyway. So yeah, we are fine with the home page right now. So let's go back into the media library, and here we are going to get some new images. For example, let's start with some portraits. So let's take this, him, he's looking funny, her. So let's wait till our plugin downloaded and resized all images, and we're done. So let's pick some nature images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's take some fashion images. 1, 2, 3. Something more interesting. 4. Well, why not those? 5. So he's done doing all that. So let's jump into our library. And there we now have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so one of them we don't need. Okay, now let's go to bulk selection, and I'm going to choose all these and put them here into home. Because these images are now our portfolio images. So let's jump back to the page and add it with Brizy. We now have 15 images to show here in our gallery. So I jump into my gallery settings and put these columns to 5. So that way I just have 3 rows. The other way would be we could say this here to 3, but then we would have 5 rows. So it's up to you how you like it more. Currently I'm going with 5 columns. Tags are enabled, so let's integrate our images. So we have now 1, 2, 3, yep, here, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is now our image section, and what we want to do, we want to mix our images a little bit. So let's jump into the home setting. This one was, for example, one of the fashion images. So I'm going to select, and here in tags, I'm going to add fashion. So next image would be a nature image. And here in the text, I say nature. And the next one there would be a portrait. And I put as tag portrait. Okay, and now I can start to fill all the other blank images. Okay, these are now all our images. Next thing we need to do is to copy the tags to the right images. So this one, I have a portrait double used. So we changed him. That's a portrait. So this one was a fashion one. So copy, and now let's tag all the fashion images. And last but not least, we have our nature images. So let's set our nature tags. Okay, so what's happening now when people visit this page? I'm going to upgrade it, and let's jump into the preview. So you now have here these buttons. So to say, if I want only to see the portraits, I'm going to click on portrait, nature, fashion, and we see some things haven't worked out as we wanted. So let's have a look. Portrait is showing just those two, her and her. It didn't save the tag. I was too fast, obviously. So trying to hit enter this time. So make sure he now saves the tags correctly. So it's portrait. Yeah, there we have now all 5. Okay, nature, there was just one missing. And that was the last one. So add tags, nature, and return to make sure it saves. And in fashion we had these 3. So let's copy the tag. So she becomes a fashion. Enter. And yeah, the one with the bags. Text, fashion, enter. So nice. Now we have all in all section our 5 images. So let's refresh our page here. Now if we have fashion, nature, portrait. Okay. So this looks fine. Unfortunately, the gallery currently still is one of the very early elements, so you can't do a lot right now to edit or change things. But what you can do is to change the style here a little bit more if you want to have single buttons or everything in one row. And well, what we can do is change the colors a little bit. So let's make the backgrounds in purple, and when people hover over it, I want to have them in this green. The border, I want a strong purple and a shadow this, and if people hover over it, we want the border to be purple and the shadow to be teal. Okay, so this is more now in our style setting, and the text I want a little bit darker. So we have this, and yeah, that stays. Okay, good. So let's choose our corner design for our buttons again. Okay, 50 is obviously a little bit too much, so let's go with 25. And this one, the lower one, also we changed to 25. And now we have a little bit more styling icons and buttons to click on, and we match our design here with the round corner upper left and lower right. So let's turn this one to all again, that all images are shown, and update. Okay. So next thing, let's jump back here and have a final look on our home page, because I think I really like what I'm seeing here right now. It's a huge improvement to what we had from the beginning on. And this is the design, the style I would like to keep for the rest of our pages. So what I'm going next, I'm going to save all these blocks right now. Add a dark one too. And these are now my design blocks, my basic blocks I can use to create the other pages. Speaking of other pages, let's go to them and set them up. So let's add a new page. And here we call this one about me. Publish. Then let's add a new page. Call this one pricing. Publish. Add a new page. Now we want to show our images in a larger section. So let's call this one fashion. Publish. Add a new page. The next one we call nature. And the last one would be portrait. Well, not directly the last one, because we also want people to be able to call us. So let's make the next one contact. Whoops. Contact. And if your from within the EU, you also need to have an imprint. So these are now our pages. The privacy policy, we can edit and already set to publish. So these are now our pages, and with them already set up, we can jump into the menu section and create our first menu. I'm going to call this one main. And we select all, but not the home one, and add to menu. And also the privacy. Okay, so we want to start with about me. Then I need a set of custom links, and I'm going to call this one my work. And this one goes there under my work. Now comes fashion, nature, and portraits. Whoops. So then there comes the pricing, and I don't think we need the sample page here. So you have to go, my friend. After the pricing, I want to have my contact and then imprint and privacy policy. Okay, that looks nice. Let's save this menu and go back to homepage, edit with Brizy. And now we can here pick our menu, the main menu. And as you can see, we nearly can't see anything. So let's click into one of these things and now change some colors, because I think white would look much better to read everything. And as hover color, yes, teal is fine for me. So we had here under my work, we have this sub menu. I'm going to click on my work, so the sub menu opens, and then I'm going to click into my sub menu, and now I can change here the text, the settings, and stuff like that. So background, let's pick this dark one, but I want to have, so to say, a little shine through. As a text, I want to have the steel, and the hover should be then purple. So this looks already pretty neat. I think I'm happy with that right now. So now the next thing is, if we want to have here one thing to pop up, for example, you also can click, for example, this icon button there, and let's choose here mail, and let's add this little flyer there. And now you see you have this icon in the contact, and this makes the contact thing a little bit more interesting for the human eye. And here we have we should set an icon, and to do so, let's jump into our media library, add a new category, and we call this one icons. There we go. And now we need to add a nice icon. So let's go to Google, icons, PNG, SVG. And there you find flat icon. So photography. Flat icon is pretty nice. It offers you a ton of icons, and you get them as PNG and SVG. The upper two rows usually are from Adobe stock, so you have to pay for them. The rest usually is free. So let's have a look if we find something nice for our website. If we don't, we can still go to the next page. And there we go. talking about icons, there's one very important thing you need to know. You need to know where you want to use your icons, because, for example, for the fav icon here in WordPress, you want to set a 512 pixel image. It needs to be an image because, unfortunately, at this spot there can't be SVG files served. But we can use this now to demonstrate the difference between PNG and SVG. PNG is an image, SVG is also an image, but it's code. So the SVG file gets rendered by your browser. It's not a real image in form of an image file. So what you can also do with SVG, for example, you can add code into SVG. So in this case of this icon, for example, you could code a menu in it so that every color you click on brings you to another page. That would be possible with an SVG. It's not possible with a PNG. The next big difference, if you now look, I'm going to save a 512 pixel PNG. And you see the file size is nearly 50 kilobytes. So I'm going to call this icon 512 so I know exactly what size this thing is. And if I'm going to save the SVG, you will notice the SVG is just 2.8 kilobytes because it's only code. So you might think, wait, if that's so small, I'm going to use always SVG. But wait a moment. SVG tells via code how an icon should look. For example, let's take this Blitz icon. If I'm going to save this as SVG, you see it's just 2.1, so it's even smaller. But let's take photography again. So there was something nice. Yeah, let's look at this one, for example. You have a lot of colors there. You have a color grade there and stuff. A lot of stuff is going on. And if we save this one, you see it's 6.9 kilobytes. So the more complex the file, the larger the code becomes. And back to our image here, for example, the SVG was 2.8 kilobytes, which is nice. But if we're going to download here, for example, a 16 pixel version of the PNG, you see the PNG is much smaller, nearly just a third of the SVG. So always choosing the SVG isn't smart, because you need to know exactly when you are going to use this and where you're going to use this. So always keep in mind how large is the file, how large is the image, and where do I need it. Can I use an SVG at this location? Or do I need a PNG at this location? Because that's really, really, really very important for your work if you want to work smart. The next thing we are going to do, we jump to tiny PNG. And there are our images. And I'm going to pick all these PNGs and throw them in here. And there you see he's really fast. The Panda crushed them down already by more than 50%. So we're using these resized images. Open the zip. There you go. And let's drag them in here. Yeah, we want to overwrite. Okay, so back to our media library, icons table. Let's add all our icons in. And now we can upload the SVG because we allowed Brizy, of course, Brizy allows the upload of SVG files now. So these are our images, and you see the SVG already shown a little bit larger because this is just code. You can enlarge it. You can print it on the side of your house and it would be crisp and clear. Okay, so now we have here our icon. Let's add it. So I'm going to use the image block. And here in the icon section, odd. In the icon section, I want to use the SVG there. Here we go, SVG. Insert. And now let's resize it a little bit. So like this. Yeah, and now I'm happy. Now let's link this one to a dynamic element because I want to link this one to the site URL. Okay, so since we are working with a sticky header, if we scroll down, you see this is now our sticky header. So we have also to configure it. So I'm going to duplicate this page, this blog. I'm going to drag it down here, and then I'm deleting the old one. Change the color. And put that one in here. Okay, so let's change the color here in the sticky one to be a little bit more transparent, so people can see what's going on while they are scrolling. And since I've changed this one to a global, it now would change all our headers in our website. So let's update this one and we're done. Oops, jump to dashboard and let's install this one as our homepage. I want to have home here. So let's fix the other ones too. So it's a little bit more SEO friendly. Okay, and we are done with our homepage. So now we have our homepage set. We need to fill in the blanks. So about me, my work, pricing, and so on. And in this, I don't want to bore you with an ultra long setting. This will be the second part of this tutorial. So I hope you like what you've seen so far. We have a lot of more things coming to you. And I hope I see you all in the second part of this tutorial. Until then, bye bye.